Hello, everybody. And if you're just joining us, we've just finished a fantastic and exhilarating conversation with beautiful, notable alumni. And I would just wish I had scheduled more time to be speaking with them, and Abrar will agree with me. But we're moving to our next session. And hey, Corey, it's dinner at Benderlock, and I am so glad we're not having an alumni event today because it would have meant complete restructuring and getting everyone indoors to the alumni arts block and setting up there from Benderlock. And we've done this before. It's pouring cats and dogs outside. I'm glad we're indoors and safe from our homes, safe in our homes. Corey, you're muted.
I'm not muted.
There you go. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my button didn't say mute, so I'm not sure. So yes, the rain just stopped, and yeah, it's a good thing. But people can come to Benderlock anytime virtually. Not a problem. So yeah, no, that was a fantastic session.
Anyway, hi, welcome back, guys. So, Mr. Corey, it is nice to be back in Benderlock. I actually remember the first time that I was there. It was Bendy Carnival, and prom committee. Our equipment wasn't working, so we kind of made a mess of your kitchen, and then sold a lot of food. So that was nice. It's nice to be back.
Abrar, I have to ask you: is that when you took my car on a joyride?
No, that was much later, Mr.
Oh, that
Corey.
was a year later.
Like, I know you're getting old, but come on, your memory has to be better than that, right?
You've come a long way since those days, Abrar.
I have, haven't I? Yeah. Anyway, but Mr. Corey, I understand that you are an alumni yourself. So what motivated you to return to KIS 7 years ago, and how has it been to be an alumni principal?
Yeah, thanks, Abrar. It's been 8 years. This is year 9, actually, starting year 9.
Oh, wow.
You know, like so many alumni, you just heard the panelists earlier, talk about their formative years. So my formative years were at KIS, or Cody School at the time. And, so I guess it's like, if people ask me, it's really where I'm from. So it's always been home. That said, I had no intention of returning back to Cody, but when the opportunity came my way, it just felt right. I had zero plans, but it just felt right. My wife is a Cody grad as well, Dandita, and she's half Indian. Our son Tarun is a quarter Bengali, right?
Like me.
And I think, yeah, like you. And we wanted him to, grow up and really understanding and appreciating his heritage, his Indian heritage. It made sense to do that from India, right? So yeah.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. So when you joined, you started the motto, "School the world needs." But in the world we live in today, what do you think is needed to bring about positive change? And I want to know more about what KIS is doing to imbibe that in their students.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I have to say I love how our vision, how this phrase, striving to be a school the world needs. I love how it's taken off. I mean, every student, if they've been here for a semester, they know that that's our vision. They know that that's what we try to do. And it's, and I think you'll see this in a conversation with our students later tonight. So I think, at least some of the answers to the questions you'll see. But to answer your question, I think what does the world need? Well, it needs, people who are well educated, who are thoughtful, who are critical thinkers, who are compassionate. But that's just the start, right? That's just the base. I think it comes down to me. Shireen Irani, like earlier tonight, she said this, it's really scary when you have all across the world, you're starting to see schools with a much more religious bent, right? Just a proliferation of religious schools. For me, really what I think multicultural schools like Cody can do really well is to educate and nurture young people who do not see the world in binary terms. I think that's kind of the bottom line. You know, it's not us versus them, my country versus your country, or you know, my religion versus your religion or my culture. It's you know, when you're young and your brain is like you and your brain is still developing, your thinking is not completely hardwired, right? And so, you know, you're not hardwired into a mindset of, you know, fearing the other, or seeing these kind of false binaries that take place. So, I mean, at Cody, you've had students. You talked earlier in the early session about your roommate. You know, you've had students or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever, you know, whose countries are at war or enemies. But at Cody, you know, you really learn to appreciate the individual. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but with a happy ending. You know, I think that's kind of what Cody can do in some ways. And I think that's what Cody needs. You know, we're also a bastion of third culture kids from many different places. So, you know, and I think if you have that experience, that cross-cultural experience, you're able to bring people together, and you're able to solve problems in ways that people without this multicultural experience, you know, they wouldn't know how to do that. So that's really when we say school the world needs. I think it's about that particular aspect of the school.
I think through that you're kind of creating global citizens and citizens that the world needs. And if I'm not wrong, we have some of them with us here today. Would you like to introduce them to the audience?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to. Are they all on? We're all here. Okay, yeah, it's really good to see. I miss our students, so it's really good to see them. So tonight with us we have Nina Hariharan and Dhruv Ganapati, and I believe David Omar is with us today. Aryan Patel, and Vedika Kanakia, and Megha Vinesh. So, hi guys, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good, sir. How are you?
Great.
Just always good to see you guys. So, you know, I'm not going to introduce your individual projects. I'll let you do that. But just to frame this a little bit, can you tell us, any one of you, can you just tell us a little bit about how you became involved in these campaigns, you know, that are benefiting, in this case, benefiting people in Cody?
So initially, this organization that's based in Mumbai called the Alpha Irvine Project, they approached our school to widen their impact as an organization. And we decided to collaborate because it's an excellent opportunity to give back to the Cody community. Because it's been a pillar, Cody School has been a pillar in our community as well as in our lives. As students, we wanted to give back to this community and go ahead with this initiative with guidance from the organization top. And we customized our campaigns according to the needs of Cody, because as students and having lived there, we know Cody better than any outsider from any organization could. So we decided to focus our projects on Cody and address the most prevalent issues.
That's fantastic. So you're going to tell us about these, but alumni can support these projects, right? You know, eventually, you know, when do these kind of go online so that we can all, you know, find out more about them? It's pretty soon, right?
Yeah, we're starting in the first week of September.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so let's see. Dhruv and David, how about you tell us about your campaign?
Thank you, Mr. Corey. Hi, guys. As Mr. Corey said, my name is Dhruv, and I'm co-heading the Vocational Training and Microfinance campaign with my friend David.
Hi, I'm David.
We aim to support people who are solely responsible for their family's income in Kodaikanal. Due to COVID-19 still posing a threat all around India and Kodaikanal being under strict lockdown, many people have lost their jobs or have had to take leave without pay. These people usually come from low-income families and are struggling to provide for themselves during this pandemic, as there is no source of income for them whatsoever. I think that this pandemic has really shown us how reliant the Kodaikanal economy is on tourism due to the closing of various hotels and other establishments. So we were hoping to provide another source of employment away from that. I'm sure you've heard the famous quote, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. We intend to teach the people of Kodaikanal specific skill sets for them to feed themselves for a lifetime. And David is going to speak about how we intend to do that.
Thank you, Dhruv. It was an amazing introduction. So the vocational training program would take in cooperation with an NGO that have associates present in Kodi. So they'll be helping us with the operations and the logistics of the training program. And we also have a few programs decided, such as tailoring, computer education, or organic farming. However, we started spreading the word, and we're trying to find out which program would benefit the people of our community the most. So we want to know which one they think would be best. Additionally, after the program ends, we hope to support suitable trainees as candidates for our microfinancial services. And we hope to partner up with financial institutions in Tamil Nadu that provide microcredit. And our job would be to handle the loan application processes on behalf of these people. So with the resources available to us and KIS, Dhruv and I genuinely hope that we can help the underprivileged ones of our wonderful community and help them stand up on their feet and provide them the necessary skills to gain employment.
David, Dhruv, that's fantastic. Tell me, how are you going to measure the success of your program?
I guess success for us really means that we are able to benefit the people of Kodi with all the resources available to us. However, we hope that with our vocational training program, we hope that we can provide employment in around Kodi. And we do know that with the coronavirus and everything, the probability of getting jobs may be low at this time being. So that is why we're also going to provide them stipends in a monthly basis, so that the program is they don't feel like this program has been a waste of their time. So they'll be receiving money every month as the program goes by. And our microfinancial services would allow them to move on to a whole new level in their lives, as we are targeting those who have a keen interest on starting up their own businesses. So we'll be allowing them to stand up on their feet and have a more profitable life, basically.
Yeah. So Dhruv, how are you guys going to decide like who gets the loans? How do you make that decision?
Yeah, so the process of application that we've thought of is quite elaborate in the sense that it starts right from the beginning of the training program. These people that we hope to support through microfinancial services are trainees in our program, and they would be people that display the necessary characteristics that would be required for them to start up their own businesses. And obviously, we don't want to force anyone to start up their own businesses. There has to be a certain amount of interest from these people. So there are various factors that we are using to determine who would be eligible, and the period through which we would assess these characteristics is quite extensive to minimize the amount of risk that there is.
Fantastic. So it's so obvious you guys have done a lot of thinking about this. It's a super ambitious project, but I know you'll do a good job. So wish you luck. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So Megha,
Hi,
you're in Dubai, right? This evening?
Yeah.
Okay. So your project is really cool. So I think you have this passion for animals, right? So and your project is involved with animals, right? So can you tell us a little bit about where your passion came from, and then tell us about your project?
So I guess my interests with animals came around from, always growing up with them. I've got 2 pet cats. We continuously foster cats every once in a while. My grandparents in India, we've always had like a whole set of dogs coming in and out. So I guess it just runs in my family, like this love for animals. So my project, I'm working in association with the KSPCA, that is the Kodaikanal Society for the Protection and Care of Animals. And what I plan to do is raise amounts to help them with their COVID relief program. So I've been in continuous touch with them and I've come to hear of some of the problems that they face during their feeding program. And we've had animals such as dogs get caught in the traps for bisons, which lead them to forming gangrenes on their leg. And because we don't have veterinary services in Kodi, often this leads to amputation. We've had misinformed feeders accidentally feed beef to a cow, and we have animals who have allergies and skin diseases that we don't have the facilities to tend to. And if this isn't bad enough, there's so much misinformation surrounding COVID transmission through animals, and this only makes the situation worse. So my project, it stems from the need to include a non-humanitarian initiative, and I hope to crowdfund amounts for these strays to help them during this COVID-19 relief. And the funds will go to the KSPCA not just to help obtain adequate nutrition for these animals, but also to help establish Kodi as a rabies-free zone in accordance with World Health Organization guidelines. Because of a lack of funding, the KSPCA has had to put these vaccine drives on a pause and prioritize other tasks, which means that they've been falling short of the required amounts of vaccine to administer. And by sharing these amounts, we will also be able to ensure that we are able to avail veterinary services from down the plains and have these vets tend to the animals every single week or so. And the KSPCA's efforts, they range from cats to dogs to horses and mules. So they take a very holistic approach with regards to animal relief. To conclude, I'd just like to restate this quote by Immanuel Kant, where he says that the best judge of a man's heart is the way he treats animals. And I truly believe that there's no task as noble as speaking up for the ones who cannot speak up for themselves.
Fantastic, Mega. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you have such a good grasp on the situation. So, just a question, okay? This campaign aside, right? When you're passionate about animals, how do you educate others? Say other students at KIS, staff at KIS, people in town. How do you educate them about animals, animal rights, animal welfare?
I think fortunately for us at Kodi, animals have always been a very tight part of the community. So it's never as if, they're separate beings in our community. We award tarpons to dogs. We have them come around campus all the time. So animals have always been something that's very integral to the Kodi community. And as far as I'm aware, everyone in Kodi is to some extent an animal lover. It's just what I hope to achieve through my project is kind of educating people on how they can go out of their way to help out these animals. It could be something as small as feeding the dogs you see on the street, and with certain little children it could also be something as simple as where to touch a dog, or where you pet your animals, what signs show that an animal is in distress when you're interacting with them. So I just think it's particularly important to inculcate that seed of wanting to put in efforts towards animal welfare amongst all students, which I think is only possible if we have constant communication on these topics.
All right. Thanks so much. That's brilliant. Really, really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mr. Aryan Patel, I think you're here with us this evening. And your campaign really touches on something that had come up in the earlier panel with our esteemed alumni panel. Aryan, why don't you tell us about your project?
All right, so hi everyone, my name is Aryan, and the campaign that I'm working with is called the Offline Education Project. It provides students in Kodi with educational resources such as dictionaries, textbook, and stationery. All schools in Kodi have been shut down, and while some of them have been able to move towards an online platform, many schools have not, and this is because they do not have the funds. The Center for Environment and Humanity, which is another KIS initiative that works with waste management, conservation, restoration, and education throughout Kodi, has been a great resource for my project. When I looked at some schools and students that they had been working with, I noticed that many of them lacked resources. But fortunately, what they did not lack was the will to learn and make use of all the opportunities they had. I believe that we as KI students are extremely fortunate to have access to a variety of resources. But what we need to understand is that there are people who are finding it very hard to receive education, especially during these times. Because we wanted to reach out and help as many students as possible, We've decided to give out books, for example, rather than tablets or mobile phones. We believe that education is the greatest tool one can have and is a solution to many of the global challenges we face today. And I'm sure that through this project, we all will be able to understand the true significance of learning and support as many students as we can.
Hey,
Okay.
Mr. Corey, you think Aryan looks a little different today? I think he was looking like something else the other day.
I wasn't going to bring it up. I wasn't going to bring it up, but congratulations to our new co-president of Studco, Mr. Aryan Patel.
Thank you so much. It was actually a promise that I'd made to some of my friends that if I won, I would get rid of my beard.
Oh, you're talking about that. Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't notice. I always thought when we
that was
talked, you were
abroad.
wearing a mask. You know how it, so it
Yeah,
looked
a
like
chin
beard
strap,
sometimes.
you know?
Yeah. So Aryan, congratulations on your Studco position as well as on your shave.
Thank you
Which
so
I
much.
which I didn't notice at all. So Aryan, this came up in the previous panel as well. About how KIS is distributing food. We're doing it through schools, and so just a couple days ago, I had the opportunity to meet with about 10 other principals of local schools. They're serving tribal communities, all of that, and just sitting there talking with them, you could see they miss their students. They're all of that, and so it's a huge need right now. Just these kids, wherever they are in villages and other places that are just, they don't have online resources, they're missing school. But what are the specific learning needs that you think are out there, and then how are the resources that you're going to bring in through your campaign, how are they going to meet those needs?
All right, so I think that learning needs can be classified under two overall aspects. One is how much are you willing to invest, and this includes your mindset. And the other one is how much do you actually have, and this includes the resources that I'll be able to provide. And I agree with your feedback. I've gotten similar feedback about how students really miss going to school and being around people and just learning.
Yeah.
And I think that, but then there are other students also who might need a little bit of push to get them towards that level. And that is where my project comes into role. We're providing them with resources that they can use to make the most out of the time they have at home. And I think that, and then there are questions about the effectiveness of this approach, as you mentioned, but I think we can successfully rely on the parents and the teachers to make it as successful as possible. I've heard some great response from teachers about how they go on a weekly basis to some houses to collect homework and just give new work. And then there are teachers there are parents also who think that the learning is extremely important and should be continued during this time. And I'm sure that through this project, we'll be able to have a positive impact on the lives of many.
So Aryan, what age groups are you looking to target for this?
So our focus is primary school kids of ages between 4 to 10. And the reason behind this decision is to focus more on skill-based learning rather than a concept-based learning. What we realized was, as students move from middle school to high school, their focus is on concept-based learning, which is to cover as much syllabus as they can. But what we want to focus is on skill-based to make sure that they have the skills that they can use throughout their entire life. And that's only possible when we focus on the younger kids. Another thing we realized was that students who are a bit older are already being supported through the government, as there are TV channels that the Tamil Nadu government has been working with, which are solely focusing on giving lessons on a daily basis. So these are some reasons why we felt that primary school kids would be a better option.
That's fantastic. Good luck
with
your campaign. I know it's a great need, and I'm sure you'll be successful. Nina Hariharan. Hi, Nina.
Hi, sir.
And Abrar, do you notice anything different about Nina? She is the.
I think she and Aryan have something in common, no?
They do have something in common. They are. Nina is the other co-president of Studco, recently elected, announced yesterday. So congrats to Nina.
Thank you.
And it just shows, I mean, in the work that you're doing, everything else. So proud of KIS students. Nina, tell us about your project.
So I'm heading the campaign dealing with COVID-19 hospital facilities. And there was this quote I heard that said, "A hospital alone shows what war is." And that kind of resonated with me because this coronavirus pandemic has brought about so much destruction, you can say, with regards to lives of the impacted and the hospital staff who almost put their lives at risk to see someone make it out alive. And as we all know, Kodi, being a hill station, is rather isolated, and the current crisis has given rise to so many issues, especially in terms of these individuals. So through my project, I contacted the two predominant hospitals in Kodi, Van Allen and the government hospital, and I learned that they have a shortage in the necessary supplies and facilities. And because of this, a lot of critical cases are being sent down to the plains, which is so inefficient in terms of obtaining immediate relief. And as we all probably know, government healthcare services in India are very different and almost inadequate in comparison to those abroad. And although the government does provide them with the essential funds, affordable but reliable healthcare is still kind of an illusion, especially in these government hospitals. So the objective for my campaign will be to raise these required funds through crowdfunding and purchase and deliver the required equipment to the hospitals. We all know that coronavirus is potentially deadly, and I think Kodi must be sufficiently equipped to combat the disease at its early stages. And this is also an excellent opportunity to give back to the community that has provided us with so much.
Nina, that's great. How does this connect with your own passions, your own goals in life?
So initially, I was interested in heading this particular campaign because it's a rather urgent issue in so many communities, not only Kodi. And I just wanted to contribute towards that. And I'm very passionate about the field of health services. And particularly, I'm aspiring to study psychology at Alumni because I just love learning about how the brain works, why we do what we do, anything related to mental health. And so during the process of my project, I was able to speak with some relevant medical officials from the government hospital. And through this, I noticed that they emphasize more on the psychological distress brought by the illness among the impacted population. And they actually mentioned this before even talking about combating the more well-known physical symptoms that we all think of. So due to these mental impacts, there was a need expressed for recreational facilities like games and television in these hospitals. And since they lack that, it showed me another perspective that also happens to relate to my passions. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So you've answered that. Yeah, it's so, I mean, it's not just the patient in the ward, but it's their family or their children who also have needs then, you know, so it's that, and I can tell, I mean, you've talked to a lot of people, you've researched this, and I think you've learned a lot through this process. So wishing you every success, not only because it's a great project, it's going to keep all of us safe, and it means when KIS students come back to school that, you know, we'll have the best facilities possible because of your project. So thanks a lot, Nina. Congrats again. Vedika.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Vedika. Where are you this evening?
So I'm placed in Mumbai.
You're in Mumbai. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Tell us about your project, one that's near and dear to my heart.
So I'm Vedika and I'm heading the Care Systems campaign. So we're planning to focus on Mercy Home, which has been a very big support system in our Kodi community for the elderly people. So I would really like to give you all a background of someone who's residing there since the past 18 years. So her name's Bomani, and she left her home in Bihar after her husband and son were killed in an family dispute. And to escape the same fate, she boarded a train to Chennai. And when she reached here, she couldn't even understand a word of the Tamil dialect. But out of sympathy, one of the locals informed Mercy Home about her, and she's been calling it her home ever since that time. So in my campaign, I want to reciprocate its appreciation to Mercy Home, which has been an anchor in our community caring for these people. And right now, it's in dire need of contributions and assistance with regards to repair, maintenance, plumbing, etc. And especially during this stressful pandemic, in my campaign, we target a refurbished Mercy Home so that it's a place with comfort, good meals, entertainment facilities for the people who need it the most. And we want to change the public perception of it and bring smiles onto more people like Bhumni. And so that's why I really wanted to go ahead with this campaign during this time.
And so Vedika, why is this a particular passion for you?
So staying at home for so many months now, I every Sunday I recollect how we used to go to Abby's or Munchies, and then I used to see so many people at the Sunday market, and most of the people I noticed were from the elderly community, and I can't help but think about how they are surviving at this point because of the pandemic. They must be in a very big situation as related to their household income. And I think opening up Mercy Home and telling people that it is an option to go to before they can stand up on their feet after everything is over, I think it would make a big difference. And I think that's how I want to contribute to the Kori community.
And you mentioned this briefly, but how are you relating your campaign for the folks at Mercy Home, with the current pandemic?
So since they are very stuck to that place already, I want to make sure that their psychological support is also available, and that's why we want to refurbish it with entertainment facilities, etc. And apart from that, I also want to establish some sanitizer booths and some infrared thermometers and other things needed for their safety, so that they are away from the whole risk of contracting the virus.
Fantastic. Well done. Yeah, for sure. I look forward to visiting Mercy Home with you when you get a chance to be back to Cody. If anyone's seen the newest kind of Cody video, the school video, there's kind of a longer segment at Mercy Home. So it's fantastic, and you just sense the joy. It's just a place of joy. So I'm glad that we're raising funds. All of you guys, amazing work. You are inspirational. It's an honor for me to be your principal, and thanks to all of you.
Mr. Corey, I think Cody has this track of making global citizens, leaders, and change makers, and that's something that's very evident.
Yeah.
And I'm so I feel proud that these are my juniors. Like I lived in dorm with them. And it's just so great to be seeing the work that they're doing. So I was just wondering, so do any of you have plans to kind of collaborate your projects together for the final outcome? Where do you see your projects going? Just tell us a little bit more.
I think for us, it mainly depends on what type of what type of program we're looking at. So let's say if we're training people to produce masks, maybe we might collaborate with Nina's project and everything. So it really depends on how we go from here on and how it benefits us later on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties with my headphones. My apologies.
Yeah. I'll pose a question to Megha. So we had this whole idea of you're asking us to protect the lives of animals, and at the same time, people are trying to try to protect their own lives. So how are you going to differentiate this? How are you going to reach out to the public?
I think it's very important for people if people are unable to inculcate those feelings of compassion, I think there's always a very different approach you can take, which is through educating people on how, the mistreatment of animals can kind of come back in that circle and cause problems to us. Because like we're all aware, a lot of diseases, a lot of global pandemics are actually zoonotic. So they originate from animals that have been treated in poor conditions, and then they kind of transmit to human beings. So I think it's so important for people to realize that, your actions do have a repercussion on a very, very wide scale. Like even the smallest things you do, the smallest ways in which you treat animals. For example, you throw a rock at a dog. Don't be surprised when 2 weeks later that dog starts barking at you, howling at you. It's so important because this is something that the KSPCA also believes in. So when I wanted to first start my project, I proposed the idea of setting up like automatic feeding stations throughout Kodaikanal, which is when Ms. Janani told me, like, no, that kind of goes against the KSPCA's principle. What we want people to do is we want people to voluntarily come out and feed these animals so that we can foster better interactions between animals and people. And now that I think about it, it makes so much sense because, when animals start associating human beings with something positive, I think that can really, really help to not just foster better interactions, but also to just prevent any human animal conflicts from taking place on a large scale.
Corey, this is a question for you. As a school, how are we actually, providing the platform for these kids to go ahead and do these projects? How are we planning to connect them?
So, I think this is something that we identified a few years ago, and it's just kind of grown over time. School is at one level, I think Mancho touched on this too in the previous panel. School is not just about sitting in a classroom and learning a subject. If that's what we think it is, then we've kind of lost the plot. And so honestly, education for me is really about providing knowledge and learning, but also experience. And there's no better learning experience than actually doing something, doing a project, being involved in something, getting a real authentic kind of experience where you're going to have all the obstacles that every nonprofit has, every school has. I mean, that to me is true learning. So I think it's just become kind of a thought that we've had, that if students have a passion, right? And it could be for, like Abrar last year had a passion for, the entrepreneurship and looking at that. And so Abrar, I mean, I think we really did our best, not to get in your way maybe, but really to support you, really to go, okay, how do we let Abrar and the other students working with Abrar, how do we provide a platform for them? And so, Abrar and about 30 other KIS students put on this initiative on entrepreneurship. And so I think it's just become part of the fabric of the school, where above and beyond what happens in the classroom, it's just as important to look at kind of what happens outside the classroom. So
and here I'm gonna ask the panel a question, because on that note is, how are these kids actually, I'm not an academic staff, so I see it from the outside window most of the time, but I'm gonna ask you kids, how do you actually manage your time between doing projects like these and academics? Mega's laughing.
And student council.
And student council. And if you were here on campus, there would be canteens, there would be movies, there would be all sorts of things happening, field day, football. Who wants to take the mic and tell us, what do you guys do to manage time and take your passions forward?
So can I go ahead and answer that? So I think we all need to set like a balance for how and the schedule, but there obviously are going to be long nights and like early mornings for us. But I don't think any of us mind, because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do, and we want to help the community even if we're not there. Because we realize how privileged we are living at home and being secure in this environment. However, I think we want to help others that way. And so I think the major factor in this is just us, like all of us, finding a schedule that works for each of us, and yeah, just communicating well with the teachers and just handling the whole thing where we can make the best of the situation possible.
And how has this virtual experience been so far and managing time?
So I think the virtual experience, it's more the classes are more productive because we are on it's a lot of interactive sessions along with theory. And sometimes in classes, you know how we friends are, like we kind of talk when the teacher's teaching, and so those are some distractions in class when we are in person in school. However, right now, since we are using an online platform, that reduces the chances of getting distracted. And I think that's become a really, and even school, the teachers have incorporated interaction as along with the theory that they're teaching us. And I think it's going pretty well.
That's great to hear, Vedika. Do we have any more questions?
Actually, I would like to ask one to Mr. Corey. Like, we've been having this amazing conversation, and what just comes to mind is I think KIS is not only graduating students to go on to college, they are kind of preparing students to be global citizens that the world needs. So, one thing that really comes to mind is the fact that we are right now going through a very tumultuous time, politically speaking. We're growing up in a highly politicized environment. So how is KIS kind of battling those biases? I want to hear from you, Mr. Corey.
So yeah, so about race and difference, yeah. So this is something obviously I've been thinking a lot about. Some of the panelists know this. And I think, you know, it's like I was thinking about this a lot. This is a common experience of KIS students, I think, going back 50 years, where at least 50 years, where, you know, you're up in Cody and you're kind of really involved in the intensity of life at a boarding school. And we live in a bubble in so many ways. And the real world, when you actually get out into the real world, it can seem shocking, especially when it comes to issues like race. And maybe especially if you end up in North America, you know, right now. And so, I mean, I know I had that experience when I left Cody, and I was American. But, you know, I still had that kind of that really not quite feeling kind of knowledgeable or comfortable in terms of those types of things. I know many alumni have felt that way as well about race. And a number of alumni from various age groups, right, from a long time ago to more recently, shared some of their thoughts on this same kind of idea. How does Cody prepare students for issues of racial injustice, of equality? And I think that the alumni reaching out to us has been a great call to action for us. You know, what I've heard from alumni basically is like, listen, they're not always adequately prepared or knowledgeable, right, about issues around race. So certainly, I mean, I think what we're doing is we're engaging in a conversation. You know, I've written to a number of students, and I have to tell you, it's been really kind of the most thoughtful responses. You know, I've been asking them, is this an important issue for you? Is this, and what particular parts of it are important for us at school? What do you notice at KIS on this in terms of just, you know, how we see each other? Is there bias? How do we understand race? And the kids have just, I have my inbox is full of about like 30 students who've written to me on this topic. So I think what we'll do is this semester, we'll talk about it. We'll educate ourselves a little bit more about this topic. And the interest from students is just amazing. So we'll educate ourselves. We'll invite some guests to come and talk to us. We have alumni all over the world who I know will help us on this. And then next semester, hopefully when students are able to return to school, we can look at ways in which we can take action. But yeah, it's absolutely, it's not just a topic of the moment. It is a topic of the moment, but it's really an important issue that transcends different generations at Cody in terms of living in this place, learning in this place, in a lot of, with a lot of multicultural kind of harmony, but then going out into the world, and what does it mean? You know, how do we share Cody-ness with the rest of the world?
I think that's talking about the alumni experience, and that's great. I think at Cody myself, I was among so many different people, and it was a great experience, a multicultural experience. But would any of the students that we have with us right now like to reflect about these things, race, bias, and all of that? Would any of you like to share your experiences or what you think about the issues right now?
Basically, much place to be compared to a lot of other schools, because here we're so open towards everything that happens. It's almost like, when you go into Cody, when you're around the friend circle that you have, it's like you forget about any national conflict. You forget that, like Mr. Cody said, you have a boyfriend from somewhere, and you just forget that both your countries are actually at war. It's almost as though there's almost nothing that differentiates between someone who's from, say, India, and someone who's from Bangladesh, someone who's from Korea, someone who's from Bhutan. There's What I can say, however, is the only time we tend to kind of judge anyone by their race is when they come home from vacations. I think the only time the race ever matters is when they come home from vacations and we're like, okay, what food have you brought for us from back home? But otherwise, there's almost nothing that kind of separates us in terms of race, in terms of what language they speak. We've got so many students who, sit up at late night, try and learn their roommate's language. And it's very, very nice to just have people that you can bond with all the time, regardless of what you look like, what you eat, what you speak. And I think in that way, Cody is a very, very comforting environment to be in. Like, for example, my dorm parent, I think we've kind of bullied her into specializing in international cuisine under the guise that, it would make the other students feel at home. So I guess the only time race even comes to play in Cody is when it's something fun, something that we can all bond over, and something that all of us can cherish.
Yeah, I think that's here's what I would also say. But if we're really trying to highlight some things that we can improve on, right? And this is also true for the last 50 years. That I think that KIS students, and for different reasons, maybe we just get so familiar with each other, right? And then maybe you see something on TV or in movies or in media, you see people talking casually, using racial slurs really casually. And when I came back to school in 2012, I think I was extremely, almost shocked at some level at some of the things that students were calling each other in terms of language. And I've had many, many conversations with students about the inappropriateness of that language. And they're like, what? But we all like it and we call it. And it's like, yes, you go out into the real world and you will learn very fast that that's not appropriate. So listen to me now, trust me later. This will have an impact later on. So I do see that at Cody, and I do see that as a real issue that we need to work on. That we have to be a lot more careful, I think, about the language that we use. I'm not saying it's a huge problem, but I'm saying it does happen. And then the other issue that I've heard students raise just in the conversations that I've actually had with Megha and others in recent days is, one of those things is like in India, right? It's the whole idea of, there's skin tone, and that different people are treated differently according to their skin tone. And at KIS, I love that, it's not as big of an issue, but it is an issue that students have raised. That maybe, where they're from and how they're treated and all of that. So that's another thing that I think we should, that together, especially, and it can't be top down. It can't be the principal telling, everyone what we should all think and how we should all act. And the saving grace of all of this is the students. I mean, I think the students are so much more woke. than a lot of the adults, just in terms of, because you're living through this. These are the issues of your life and your experience. And so, I mean, I think the best thing we can do is take our lead from you. So that's why we're having these conversations.
Yeah, and like you said, Corey, I love the way you've put it, and it seems to be that we're institutional. As an institution, we're also learning, and it's a lifetime learning process over these
Yeah.
120 years that we have been, and we just keep learning. And it's great to have all these kids on board and to showcase what you guys have done here. And it's been a great evening so far. We have alumni streaming comments and saying fantastic things, and they're really supportive of what you're doing. And with that, I'd like to conclude tonight. Um, Thank you all alumni for watching this program and watching all the content that we have put up. I mean, it's such a great way of show support, and we just enjoy hearing what you have to say, the feedback. It's been a steep learning curve, I have to say, for myself to learn all digital editing, Zoom. I never in my life thought I had to do so much of it in a short span. And Brar will tell you I spent one night doing 6 videos when a computer crashed. We're dealing with
Yeah, that wasn't great.
But Manjusha, let me say on behalf of the school and the alumni, I'm sure, and the students, what a great job you've done. So
Thank you, Corey.
Kudos to you as the alumni coordinator, and to Abrar, our newest employee at KIS. And the whole team that's put together, the tech team and everything, and then and to the alumni panelists, the speakers who sent in videos. I think it was just a remarkable day. And then, but finally, and most importantly, to our students. So thanks for being a part of this, guys. Amazing work. We're wishing you all success, and we know our alumni will get involved. With the crowdfunding, the money, but with expertise. I mean, you heard the panel today. These guys know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so you will get, and I know you've already done a lot of research. There's more out there. So
yes, and this
Best
is
of luck,
just the
guys.
beginning. Yes, and what we're just seeing is just the beginning of what is more to come, and it looks like we will be doing much more, connecting much more, and we'd love to make this a platform for everyone, current students and alumni, to link together and understand what we're doing. We have 6,000 alumni, but we can't know everything that every alumni does. So do reach out back to us, alumni. And if I have to, I'll just conclude by saying also a few thank yous. Corey, I'd really like to thank you and the administration for giving me the support and encouragement, despite what's going on with pandemic, and here's me in my enthusiastic voice coming up and saying, let's do an alumni meet. But thank you for all that support. I'd also love to thank Kisco, Stephanie and Rudy for staying up at nights and helping me put up this entire thing. I have no IT knowledge, and they've really pulled through all behind me. I'd love to thank the cameraman, Mr. Joel, who helped me do the shots for the tour of campus. I hope many of you watched it. Our willing participants, Maya Sarkar and Hannah Woodridge. Our alumni, my God, who willingly gave up their time to, talk with Abrar on the panel, on our videos, the KFI messages. I'd love to thank KFI for collaborating with us and bringing in their content as well and their messages. This is how we build a stronger community, and this is very important to all of us. Like Cabrera said at the beginning, networking is key, and it's so difficult to network if we don't communicate what we're doing. And this is just the beginning of networking for all of us, building together a stronger world and community, and being global citizens, a school the world needs. If I could put that in there too.
What a nice plug for the school.
Yeah, do marketing as well.
Yeah, good marketing.
And Abrar, I have to say thank you for all your hard work and listening to my advice and being a true inspiration for not just your juniors, but all of us alumni as well. It's a real pleasure to have you on board. I fed off your energy. I really enjoyed having you, and I hope that we can always have a KIS alumni intern, someone like you. Maybe it's a position, Corey, hint, hint.
We've had
I'm
it
not giving up
before.
the job. I'm not giving up the job that quick, though.
No,
Sticking
no,
around
I'm
for a
not
while.
letting you go too fast. We'll definitely see a little bit more of you. And last but not least, thank you to all our viewers and supporters. Your encouragement that you've given me from the day go, our Facebook users, LinkedIn groups. Thank you so much for being there for us every day, enjoying what we put up. It's a true encouragement for me over here in Cody. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, night, afternoon, midnight. Um, and like I said, this is definitely the beginning of more to come. Good night, everybody.
Bye bye.